Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin Liber Primus, chapter 12. This is exercise A of chapter 12, where we are declining third declension I-stem nouns. Make sure you review the rules for I-stem nouns. Remember that an I-stem must be a third declension noun. They can be masculine or feminine, and they follow their own set of rules, or can be a neuter third declension noun, and it only has one rule under the I-stem rules. So your instructions for this exercise are to give the rule that the noun follows. So in the blank, you're supposed to write the rule, the I-stem rule that the noun follows, and then correctly decline the noun. So we will start with animal, animalis, neuter. It means animal. What you need to do is ask yourself, is this an I-stem noun? Well, is it third declension? It is. The genitive singular ends in an is, pronounced is. It is a third declension. It is a third declension neuter. Is it an I-stem? Well, if you look at the third declension neuter I-stem rules, there's only one, and it says that if the nominative ends in al, e, or ar, then that noun is a third declension neuter I-stem. And since animal, which ends in an al and its nominative, it is an I-stem. Third declension, neuter I-stem. That means that its ablative singular will end in the letter I, so it will be animali. The nominative and accusative plural will end in an ia, so animalia. And then the genitive plural will end in ium, eum, animalium. So the full declension of animal, animalis, neuter will be, the nominative is animal, the genitive is animalis. The stem you find by taking off the is of the genitive singular to get the stem animal. Go ahead and write animal for the rest of the blanks of the declension. And then we're going to add third declension neuter I-stem endings. Now, they're very similar to third declension neuter endings, except for the ablative singular, the nominative and accusative plural, and the genitive plural. So blank, is, e, same as nominative, e, where it's the letter I, pronounced e, ia, eum, ibus, ia, ibus. So animal, animalis, animali, animal, animali, animalia, animalium, animalibus, animalia, animalibus. Conus, conus, common. The C stands for common. You could also write M/F for masculine/feminine. Depends, the gender of conus depends on the sex of the dog. So conus, conus, though it does follow the masculine/feminine I-stem rule of the nominative ending in is or es, and the nominative being perisyllabic with the genitive. That means it has the same number of syllables as the genitive, conis and conis, 1, 2, and 1, 2. Therefore, it should be an I-stem, but it is not. Conus is a rule breaker. It is not an I-stem. Its genitive plural should end in ium, like the other masculine/feminine I-stems, conium, but it's not. It's conum. It's a rule breaker. So the nominative is conus, The genitive is Conus. It's a third declension. Stem is con, C-A-N. Coni, conem, cane. Canes, conum, not conium with an I-U-M. It's just conum. It's a rule breaker. Conibus, canes, conibus. Kiwis, kiwis, common. You could also write M/F, masculine or feminine. Depends on the sex of the citizen. It means citizen or fellow citizen. So is it an I stem? It's certainly a third declension, masculine or feminine. Is it an I stem? Well, yes, it follows rule number 1, where the nominative ends in an IS or ES, and it is perisyllabic. That means it has the same number of syllables the nominative does as the genitive. Kiwis, kiwis. So 2 syllables each. That means that its genitive plural will end in an IUM instead of just a UM. So we'll have kiwium instead of kiwum. Otherwise, it's declined exactly the same as what you're used to for masculine and feminine third declensions. We have kiwis for the nominative. The genitive is kiwis. The stem you get by chopping off the is, so kiv, C-I-V. Go ahead and write C-I-V for the rest of the blanks. And then we add third declension masculine/feminine endings. Make sure you get the I stem. So kiwis, kiwis, kiwi, kiwem, kiwe, kiwes, kiwium, ium, kiwium, kiwibus, kiwes, kiwibus. Exemplar, exemplaris, neuter, model, copy, example, or can mean the ideal, the exemplar. All right, so what declension is it? It is a third declension neuter. Is it an I stem? The third declension neuters only have one rule. Does the nominative end in AL, the letter E, or AR? Aha, ends in AR, exemplar, exemplaris. That means that it will have third declension neuter I stem endings. Blank is E, same as nominative E, as in the letter I. Ia, ium, ibus, ia, ibus. So the nominative is exemplar, then exemplaris. The stem is going to be exemplar. Go ahead and write that for the rest of the blanks. And then we add those endings. Exemplari, exemplar, exemplari, with an I, letter I, exemplari. Exemplaria, exemplarium, exemplaribus, exemplaria, exemplaribus. Finis, finis, masculine, means end, limit, finish, or boundary. And the plural, fines finium, means territory. They'll have the same forms because it's the same noun, just slightly different meanings if it's singular or plural. So the nominative is finis, the genitive is finis. The stem is fin, F-I-N. We can go ahead and write those for the fin for the rest of the blanks. Now, is it an I stem? Well, because it's masculine, it has to follow the masculine or feminine rules. Well, the nominative ends in IS or ES and is perisyllabic, same number of syllables, 1, 2, with the genitive, 1, 2. They both have 2 syllables. Therefore, yes, indeed, it is an I stem. The genitive plural will be finium, ium, instead of just finum. So we have finis, finis, fini, finem, fine, fines, finium, finibus, fines, finibus. Gens, gentis, feminine. Clan, tribe, family, or nation. The nominative will be gens, the genitive will be gentis. When you chop off the is, you get the stem gent. What's up, gents? And then put gent as the stem in the blanks for the rest of the paradigm. Now, it's third declension. Is it an I stem? Does it follow any one of the masculine/feminine I stem rules? And indeed it does. It is actually follows two of the rules. The easiest one it follows is that its stem ends in NT or RT is the other part of that rule. So when you chop off the IS, the stem ends in an NT, or it could also end in RT. So that makes it an I stem. You could also look at rule number 2, where the nominative is monosyllabic, which means that the nominative has a single monosyllable, gens, only one syllable. And the other part of that rule is that the stem ends in two consonants. So when you chop off the is, the stem, gent, ends in two consonants, N and T. It follows both rules. It only needs to follow one rule to make it an I stem. That means that its genitive plural will end in I-U-M, gentium, instead of just U-M, gentum. So we have gens, gentis, genti, gentem, gente, with the letter E, gentes, gentium, gentibus, gentes, gentibus. Hostas, hostas masculine, that is an enemy, as in a public enemy, an enemy of the state, as opposed to an inimicus, which is a personal enemy, like a rival. Someone you personally don't like, they don't like you. Hostas is someone that nobody in the state, country, republic, nobody likes them. Nobody's friends with them. They're all enemies. Well, it is a third declension. You can tell by the is of the genitive singulars. The nominative is hostas, the genitive is hostas. The stem is host, H-O-S-T, and you can write host in the rest of the blanks. Big question, is it an I stem? Well, the gender is masculine, therefore it would follow the masculine/feminine rules, and it just has to follow one. Does it follow any? And indeed it does. The first one. Hostas, hostas. The nominative ends in is or es, and it is perisyllabic, has the same number of syllables as its genitive. Hostis, hostis. So the nominative is hostis, the genitive is hostis, hosti, hostem, hoste, hostes, hostium, hostium, not hostum, hostium, hostibus, hostes, hostibus. Ignis, ignis, masculine, fire. The nominative is ignis, the genitive is ignis. The stem, when you chop off the is, you get IGN, igna. You can write IGN in the rest of the blanks. It is a third declension. You can tell by the is, and it's a third declension masculine. Is it an I stem? Indeed, it is. Nominative ends in is or es, and it is perisyllabic, has the same number of syllables, that is 2, as its genitive. Ignis, ignis. Both have 2 syllables. So it will have third declension masculine/feminine I stem endings. That means the genitive plural will end in I-U-M, ignium, instead of just ignum, a U-M. So ignis, ignis, igni, ignem, igne, ignes, ignium, ignibus, ignes, ignibus. Mare, maris, neuter, sea, the big blue wobbly wet thing. So the nominative is mare, the genitive is maris, and you can tell it's a third declension because of the is, neuter. The stem will be mar, M-A-R. You can write mar in the rest of the blanks. Is it a third declension I stem? Well, it would have to follow the neuter rule, of which there's only one. The nominative needs to end in al, like animal, in letter e, like mare, this word, or ar, like exemplar. And yes, it ends in e, so mare, mare, maris neuter. This is an I stem. That means that its ablative singular will end in the letter I, pronounced e. It'll be mari instead of mare. The nominative and accusative plural will be maria instead of just mara. And the genitive plural will be marium instead of just maro. So blank is e, same as nominative e, letter I. Ia, ium, ibus, ia, ibus. So mare, maris, mari, mare, mari. Maria, marium, maribus, maria, maribus. Mons, montis, masculine, hill, or mount, or mountain. Mons is the nominative, montis is the genitive. It's a third declension, you can tell by the is, and its stem is mont, M-O-N-T. And you can write mont, the stem, in the rest of the blanks of the paradigm. Is it an I stem? Well, like gens, it is. It actually follows two rules. Its stem ends in nt, like gens, gentis. That makes it an I stem, where the genitive plural will end in ium, gentium. And then it's also an I stem in that the nominative is monosyllabic, mons, and that the noun stem ends in two consonants, N and T, to give us mons, montis, monti, montem, monte, with the letter E, montes, montium, montibus, montes, montibus. Instead of montum in the genitive plural, it's montium, because it's an I stem. Navis, navis, feminine, which means ship, like a navy. Navis is the nominative. Navis, the same word, is its genitive. It's a third declension feminine. Its stem is nab, N-A-V, when you chop off the s, and you can write N-A-V, nab, as the stem for the blanks for the rest of the paradigm. Navis, navis, nab. Now, is it an I stem? It would have to follow the masculine/feminine rules, and it only needs to follow one. Navis, navis, feminine. Well, its nominative ends in is or es. And it is perisyllabic with its genitive. Navis. Genitive is nawis. They both have two syllables, so they are perisyllabic. That means that the genitive plural will end in ium. We have nawis, nawis, nawi, nawem, nawe, nawes, nawium, nawibus, nawes, nawibus. Nox, noctis, feminine, night. We have nox. Noctis is the genitive. When you chop off the is, you get the stem noct, N-O-C-T, and you can write that in the rest of the blanks. It's a third declension. You can tell by the is of the genitive, and it's a third declension feminine. Is it a third declension feminine I stem? Well, the nominative doesn't end in is or es. That's certainly not perisyllabic with the genitive. Stem doesn't end in nt or rt. Uh-oh. Rule number 2. Its nominative is monosyllabic, nox, only one syllable. And when you chop off that IS and look at its stem, it ends in two consonants, C and T. C is not a vowel, T is not a vowel, they are consonants. Therefore, it is an I stem. Monosyllabic nominative and stem ending in two consonants. That makes the genitive plural eum, noctium, instead of noctum. So we get nox, noctis, nocti, noctem, nocte, with an E, the letter E, nocte. Noctes, noctium, noctibus, noctes, noctibus. Pons, pontus, masculine, bridge. Nominative is pons, genitive is pontus. It's a third declension masculine. When you chop off the is, you get pont, P-O-N-T as the stem, which you can write in the rest of the blanks. Is it a third declension masculine / feminine I stem? Well, its stem ends in NT. That makes it an I stem, where the genitive plural is IUM, pontium instead of pontum. It also follows rule 2 of the monosyllabic nominative with the stem ending in two consonants. So either way, pons, pontus, ponti, pontem, ponte, pontes, pontium, pontibus, pontes, pontibus. Remember that ablative singular is the letter E, ponte, if it's a masculine feminine. The neuter I stems have the letter I pronounced E as the ablative singular. And urbs, orbis feminine, a city. The nominative is urbs, the genitive is urbis. Chop off the is to get the stem urb, which you can write in the rest of the blanks. Is it a third declension, masculine / feminine, I stem? Well, yes. It follows rule number 2, where it has a monosyllabic nominative and a stem, when you chop off the is, that ends in two consonants. R and B are consonants, not vowels. It does not follow rule number 1 or rule number 3. The nominative does not end in is or es. Also, the stem is not nt or rt. So urbs, orbis, feminine. So we have urbs, urbis, urbi, urbem, urbe, urbes, urbium, urbibus, urbes, urbibus. Optime, very well done. You are now ready to move on to exercise B. Valete omnes.